in Polokwane in support of their leader. Malema faces charges of fraud, money laundering, corruption and racketeering. The charges relate to a 52 million rand project management tender awarded to the On Point Engineering Company. Police have cordoned off the streets around the court since last night.
All the people who will be coming this side to the court, they must know that we will be very serious in our operations. We don't want to see any dangerous weapons. The courthouse itself, it's a small area. Only a few people will be allowed to come in.
A conference discussing water management concludes in Mpumalanga today. The three-day conference has resolved that sharing resources between Swaziland, Mozambique and South Africa will help mediate water shortages. All three countries face severe backlogs in water provision. Meanwhile, according to Water and Sanitation Minister Nombula Mukunyane and Rand water supply has now been normalized in all areas in Gauteng. Several parts of the province were hit by severe water shortages due to power disruptions. More survivors of the collapsed Nigerian building are returning home and sharing their experiences after the tragic September 12th building collapse in Lagos, Nigeria. 80 South Africans lost their lives when the building collapsed over 2 weeks ago. An investigation into the cause of the disaster is now underway.
I was trapped for 5 days. The first day...
Eating or drinking anything?
No. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. Between 4th to 5th night, that is when I become thirsty and my throat was dry, and even when I touched my lips, it was dry. That is when it just came out because I could not breathe.
Then moving to China, tens of thousands of pro-democracy protesters have extended a blockade of Hong Kong streets, stockpiling supplies and setting up makeshift barricades. Pro-democracy protesters turned parts of Hong Kong into a massive street party last night, with the mood turning festive just the day after riot police fired tear gas in an ugly clash. The huge crowds defied government calls to go home after Sunday's scenes, bringing key districts of the Asian financial hub to a standstill. Remember, all those top stories and more are available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Catherine. Today will be a landmark day for Julius Malema and the economic freedom fighters. The corruption trial of the EFF leader gets underway in the Polokwane Magistrates Court shortly. It is alleged that he made millions of rands from corrupt activities. This as discontent seemingly grows within the party that Malema leads. More than 80 party members, including the provincial leadership in the Northern Cape, have defected to the ANC. The group cited the autocratic leadership style within the organisation as the main reason for their decision. Last week, defectors gathered at the social centre in Galeshewe Township and burnt regalia, including EFF T-shirts, berets and membership cards. The former EFF leader of the Francis Bart district, Kabelo Mzolo, joins us now live from our Kimberley studio. Good morning, Kabelo. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers.
Kabelo, just explain to us why your group have decided to defect from the EFF to the ANC.
When we came to our senses and we decided to go back to the ANC, it was primarily because of, as much as the policies of the ANCs or of the policies of the EFF may sound good, but we are of the firm view that these policies are misplaced in the wrong hands of the Commander-in-Chief, Julius Malema, who is very arrogant and who continues to live like all the capitalists that we are basically fighting against. The EFF in its current form does not make room for robust debate within the EFF. We are also of the firm view that our reason for going back to the ANC is that the EFF in the Northern Cape, especially its leadership, have not given us any concrete political way forward. They continue to fight over positions. They continue to fight over resources that have been made available after after they are swearing in the parliament. We continue to say that we have an obligation to warn South Africans and potential members who wants to join the EFF. The EFF is like a useless flat spare tire, which is not giving South Africans any alternative. It is not taking South Africa forward, especially the cause of the poor.
I want to talk about, you mentioned a little earlier, you said no constructive debate is allowed within the EFF. If you can explain to us why that is, if we see, and then in contrast to that, we see Julius Malema in Parliament fighting for constructive debate, but it's not allowed within his own party?
Before we went to the EFF, we were warned for following Malema. We were told that he's very arrogant. We were told that he does not like people that disagree with him. But, you know, we gave him the benefit of the doubt, and we continue to rally behind him. When he had nothing, we took our resources, we took our time, we took our own family budgets to support the EFF. However, we realized that when he told us that he did not invite us, it was quite an arrogant statement for him to make. And we realized that within the EFF, immediately when you disagree with the commander-in-chief, you will either be branded as someone who is power-hungry, someone who is causing a parallel structure instead of debating the real issues. So there has been this fear that the commander-in-chief continues to instill within the EFF around its members. When he is asking for robust debate within Parliament, he has failed to do that robust debate first within the EFF. And as he chants pay back the money, he must start paying back the money of SARS first before he continues and lament about paying back the money.
Kabelo,
So
we see
he is not exemplary.
We're seeing those pictures right now in Parliament, the behavior of the EFF when they were thrown out of Parliament. What do you make of the strategy then of your former party in Parliament? Is it a matter of them opposing anything that the ruling party puts forward, and then the general behavior in Parliament? What's your view on that?
We need to be very clear that the circus that is happening in Parliament, that is showcased by the EFF, being led by Malema. This circus is not what we have sent them to do in Parliament. We were very clear when we sent them to Parliament to go and advocate our 7 Cadillac pillars, which is the land, the mines, the scrapping of tenders, good quality healthcare, good education system, and a complete revitalization of the African economy. We have seen the direct opposite of what we have sent them to do in Parliament. What they are doing in Parliament is not what is not the general aspirations of the fighters on the ground, especially when they went into Gauteng and into the legislature of Gauteng. These are the simple things that we have not sent them to do in Parliament. So they are doing their own will in Parliament, and they are forgetting their mandate while they're in Parliament. And I just want to continue to say that Malema cannot be trusted with little things. How are we going to trust him with the nationalization of mines? How are we going to trust him with the land issue? He is going to become like all the capitalists, and he's going to enrich himself, and he's going to continue to ridicule us when we disagree with him. I want to say within the EFF, there are real fighters. There are real people of the EFF. And we must also note that Malema did not start the EFF. People came to Malema with a good number of names that were interested in forming a new party. And they asked Malema for leadership. But Malema did not form the EFF. He was approached to lead the party by members who were already existing. The only thing that he did not have structure and did not have a name. So Malema did not start the EFF, and he is behaving now like he's the one that started the EFF.
Kabelo, thank you very much for joining us today. That is the former leader of the EFF in the Francis Bart district in the Northern Cape, Kabelo Mzolo, giving his views of why they have crossed the floor, left the EFF to move back to the ANC in that part of the world. Just to recap then, now it'll be a very busy day today for the economic freedom fighters. Hundreds of their supporters gathered for an all-night vigil in Polokwane in support of their leader, Julius Malema, last night. His corruption trial resumes in the High Court today. Malema faces charges of fraud, money laundering and corruption. The charges relate to a 52 million rand project management tender awarded to the On Point Engineering Company. Then in Parliament, EFF members of Parliament face misconduct charges following disruptions during President Jacob Zuma's oral reply to questions in the National Assembly last month. The Western Cape High Court has meanwhile denied Malema and 19 other EFF MPs interim relief to stop the misconduct inquiry by Parliament's Powers and Privileges Committee. Now, moving on. The Department of Correctional Services launches an offender rehabilitation program for offenders and parolees in Robben Island today. The famous Robben Island will be used to train and teach offenders new skills, and at the same time, the island can benefit from this program as well. The program also seeks to restore and preserve Robben Island as a heritage site through the rehabilitation of offenders. We now cross to the SABC's Ayanda Ali Payne, who is standing by with an interview with the Deputy Minister of Correctional Services, Mr. Thabang Makwetla. Very good morning to you, Ayanda.
Good morning to you, Eben, and a warm welcome to Robben Island. Now, upon this podium, that historic agreement has been signed. That agreement between the Department of Correctional Services as well as the Robben Island Museum. And as you rightly said it, it's a sort of a symbiotic relationship, isn't it? Where you have the Department of Correctional Services lending out that offender labor as a form of rehabilitation for those who have wronged society. This is how they can give back. And also, the Robben Island Museum can then use some of that resource in order to maintain and upkeep this World Heritage Site. But don't hear it from me. Let's get to someone who's very much in charge when it comes to the Department of Correctional Services. He works with a team that's been officially present here already, because this particular initiative, as I mentioned, has already been rolled out for a couple of weeks, tried and tested, and so far so good. Yep, the Deputy Minister in the Department of Correctional Services joins me now, Mr. Thabang Makwetla. Very good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having us on your program.
Talk to us about how this initiative is going to work. What sort of skills will the parolees be giving out? Landscaping, painting, what will they be doing?
You would be aware that in the Memorandum of Understanding signed, the intention is to utilize offender labor to rehabilitate the infrastructure, the built infrastructure of Robben Island. And in doing that, of course, we'll be utilizing the portable skills that inmates are provided with during their incarceration and ex-offenders. But we'll also be utilizing offender labor for purposes of the rehabilitation of the natural environment of Robben Island. With respect to that, of course, there'll be a lot of guidance as to how we go about it, the removing of alien plants and things like that from the Department of Public Works. And it is also with the participation of the Department of Public Works that this initiative will be made a sustainable intervention, because through the Department of Public Works, we hope that they will be able to register this project as one of their EPWP projects, expanded public works projects, which has, as part of the design of those projects, the on-site training that must be provided in the process of rolling out the project.
This initiative will see a metamorphosis in the relationship between correctional services and Robben Island. We know that in the past, this particular island was used by the previous administration, if I can say, not even administration, but the apartheid government's incarceration of political prisoners. Now we're saying correctional services come back onto Robben Island, but for an entirely different reason, for the purposes of rehabilitating offenders. Talk to us about those dynamics.
Absolutely. Robben Island was during the days of apartheid and throughout the era of colonial conquest in this country was South Africa's ultra-maximum prison. And for the things that happened here, it earned itself, of course, a very notorious reputation as a symbol of, totalitarianism, a symbol of intolerance of views of other people, because here you had the prisoners of conscience condemned for life to be away from their societies and communities. And it is in that context that to us as Department of Correctional Services, a department which is now in the present democratic order, committed to changing our prisons into correctional services that give inmates opportunities for new beginnings, that gives them hope. It is also to us a very important involvement on Robben Island, because we are here to say this is how far we have come. This is our beginnings as a department, and today we are a department that stands for what those who are on Robben Island stands for, the promotion and preservation of human rights for all.
And of course, those who were on Robben Island were here, as you said, they were prisoners of conscience. They were here for their political activity. The new batch of parolees will be here because of their criminality and to somehow find rehabilitation. They struggle to be reintegrated in society because of the stigma attached to a criminal record. They struggle to find employment. They sometimes have difficulties getting skills because of their time behind bars. But you're hoping that the prisoners of old who were liberating South Africa will have something to contribute to those who have wronged society, that somehow those who are coming here today will learn from the heritage and the history that we have in South Africa and change and become active contributors to our society. How are you hoping that that will impact the parolees who will come and work here on Robben Island?
Of course, naturally, we expect the young offenders who will be on this project to learn a lot. There's a lot of civic education that will, be imparted to them when they get to be more acquainted with the story of Robben Island. That here you had a community of prisoners whose level of consciousness of duty to their communities made them to be committed to spend their lives in incarceration here in order to change people's lives. From that, it is what we believe it will also raise their levels of patriotism, that to give back to communities, to be part of the reparation for the damage they have caused to their communities. It's something good. It's something that must make them feel good.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister Thabang Makwetla. They're just speaking to us about that initiative between the Department of Correctional Services and the Robben Island Museum. It looks like a win-win situation because the island, let's face it, could do with a little bit of extra human resources and maintenance. And of course, we do then have the former inmates and the offenders who need a helping hand in order to be rehabilitated. And they need some work. So this will give them a little bit of extra pocket money in a form of a stipend once they are released. For a good 6 months or so, they will get reskilled. They will get reintroduced into the society. So it does look like a bit of a symbiotic relationship, doesn't it? We'll have to leave it there for now and hand you back to the Johannesburg studio. Eben, it's over to you.
Thanks, Ayanda. Lovely day out in Cape Town. Mild, beautiful day. Win-win, she talks about, and I think it's worth a visit. Not as a former parolee, one would think, but let's take a look at what you're talking about on social media. What are you saying? What are you passionate about this morning at SABC Newsroom? Ngoma says serotonin is our 100% natural herbal product that reduces stress, anxiety and calms you down. I think the EFF president should use some today. I think it's the EFF commander-in-chief. EFF militant says, when everything seems to be going against you, everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. Hashtag Black Twitter, EFF. Joseph Flojani says, EFF, you take Juju to court, we take your support. That's the truth. The true eth. Fanny Mashiani says, you can't convince the old age to join EFF, but you can convince them to vote EFF, says Fanny. Spiwo says, I repeat, I just do not see the EFF winning its case against Parliament in the Western Cape High Court. Elsewhere, they might stand a chance. Of course, it's a busy day for the EFF in the legal processes in Polokwane and in the Western Cape, in the Northern Cape. They're facing defections and the like. Tough day. Move on. Let's take a look at the world's front pages this morning. The International New York Times focusing on one of the biggest international stories at the moment, the pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong, China. According to analysts, Chinese President Xi Jinping will need to find a solution that keeps Hong Kong stable without sparking copycat calls for the change in the mainland as well. Last night, as you can see on the South China Morning Post, tens of thousands of pro-democracy protesters turned parts of Hong Kong into a massive street party. The huge crowds defied government calls to go home after Sunday's chaotic scenes, bringing key districts of the Asian financial hub to a standstill. Then the front page of the Times this morning. Doctors in the United Kingdom will in future have to work weekends, meaning patients will be able to see their doctor on Saturdays and Sundays. This falls under plans expected to be set out by Prime Minister David Cameron today. Before we cut to a break, let's just have a look at some of the scenes on the Hong Kong streets in the last 24 hours. As already mentioned, tens of thousands of pro-democracy protesters turning parts of Hong Kong into a massive street party, stocking up on supplies and setting up barricades, bringing key districts of the Asian financial hub to a proper standstill. China's communist leadership is dealing with what some call a thorny political dilemma. Although most news and images of the protests have been barred from being published on the mainland, Beijing cannot crack down too harshly on the semi-autonomous territory where freewheeling media ensures global visibility. You are watching Newsroom on SABC News. We'll be back after a short little break.
SABC News delivers stories that
unify the nation
in many ways. Stories that inspire us
to see the world differently, appreciate
and celebrate our diversity.
And mostly,
they make this place a better country to live in
despite our color,
beliefs
or culture.
I
am
Mahendra Raghunath.
Tabile Ngwato,
Lulu Kabu.
Join us every day
as we provide updates on
local and international news
straight into your home.
We
are
SABC News. SABC News, we've got Africa covered.
Welcome back. You with us here on Newsroom. This year alone, 11,129 cars have been hijacked in South Africa. With the festive season approaching, these figures are expected to increase dramatically. Last week, remote jamming devices worth more than 200,000 rand were recovered in a police raid in Midrand. Now, remote jammers prevent a car from being locked by the driver and enable thieves to get into a vehicle and take valuables or the car all in less than a minute. Despite numerous awareness campaigns, people still fall victim every day. Let's just take a look at one of the videos as to how these guys operate. There you see a parking lot. The car's door obviously have been jammed by a prospective criminal. As you can see, he's looking around, making sure that no one's watching. Jam the car door. Everything clear, and makes the move. Gets into the car like it's pretty much like it is own in there, and if not removing valuables and all your personal belongings in the car, gets out, opens the boot, removes whatever can be removed, and in some cases they even take the whole car. There you see the getaway car is there. They get away with all your personal belongings. Not a very good feeling to be robbed, I can tell you. Now today here in studio we are joined by Mr. Davy Buys from the South African Insurance Association. Good morning, Mr. Buys. Thank you very much for joining us.
Morning, Eben. Thank you for the opportunity.
As the insurance industry, are you perturbed by the rise of this type of crime now in South Africa, and have we seen the worst of it?
Yes, Eben, we are indeed perturbed. This has been happening for the last 2 to 3 years. Maybe I must go back a little bit and say that about the last 10 years, the South African Insurance Association, together with Business Against Crime and the South African Insurance Crime Bureau, started a number of initiatives to fight this type of crime, vehicle crime in general. Yeah. And we, in fact, have been able, over 10 years, up to last year, reduce our loss ratios, which were 70% of total claims, to about 30% of total claims. So there has been a massive improvement. But unfortunately, over the last 2 years, this whole story has reared its ugly head again. And in addition to that, the new thing started, obviously, 2 to 3 years ago, where the criminals and syndicates used car jamming devices to jam your locking device. It works on the same frequency as your locking device, which is 400 megahertz. And therefore, they can get into the car. And we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years that they stole a lot of contents from cars, but they also steal the cars, as you rightly pointed out.
Now, I want to ask you, first, we've got to talk directly to the public. What should people be on the lookout for? Where are the kind of hotspots that they should be careful of? And how do you protect yourself?
It's indeed a very difficult phenomenon, because the police are also very concerned. It's very difficult to investigate. From a public point of view, or from a consumer point of view, and from the insured person's point of view, there are a lot of things they must be aware of. Firstly, when goods are stolen from a car, most policies are subject to a locked car and a locked boot warranty. Yeah. If there's no forcible entry which you can prove, then you have no claim. We've seen a lot of these issues, but if there are other evidence, for instance, if you park in an area where there's a closed-circuit television, and you can get that film afterwards and you can prove that, when you submit your claim, the company will come and they will come to the party and pay. We obviously advise our policyholders to read their policies in the first place. Yeah. Secondly, from the hotspot point of view, we've noticed that this happens mostly in urban areas and the major cities. Yeah. But it also happens on the freeways. When you park at a petrol station on the road to refill your vehicle, you will find there are these people around, and they obviously prey on that because they know that people going on holiday have a lot of contents in their cars. Yeah. So those are definite hotspots, these service stations along the freeways. Parking areas at shopping centers, and there are a lot of those which we have identified where it happens, the police have identified, but extremely difficult to combat
Yes.
But the only way we can do that is if we have additional evidence, like I said. But we would like our policyholders to be aware of the situation, and we normally suggest that when you lock your car, don't walk away after you've pressed your remote. Go back and check if the doors are locked, even if you have to do it 2 or 3 times. That's probably the only way that you can prevent it from happening.
And probably don't leave too much valuables in your car if you can. But I mean that's neither here nor there.
Well, that's obvious.
You don't expect that sort of thing. I wanted to ask you about the kind of consternation that is causing within the insurance industry, because I'm sure if there's no visible break into a car, you as the insurance industry can't pay out. It must leave you with a lot of unhappy clients.
It indeed does. But unfortunately, if you have to pay each claim that is intimated, because it may be a bogus claim, where the person will say, I had this in my car, and this is probably what happened, it's very, very difficult to prove if it's really a legitimate claim or not.
I wanted to ask you about, finally, cooperation with car makers and the industry. You work with the police. Surely you must also then be working with car makers. And are there moves afoot for them to change the technology, to find something, to find a device that you use to lock your car with that can't be jammed?
Yes, indeed. We've been talking to the National Automobile Association of Manufacturers of South Africa, NAMSA, through their security committee. We've had a number of meetings with them. Unfortunately, the motor manufacturers have stated that they cannot change the frequency on which these remote controls work. Firstly, because in South Africa, it's all governed by ICASA, the Independent Communication Association of South Africa. And secondly, if you do it worldwide, where cars are manufactured not only in South Africa, it apparently is a very expensive exercise to change that situation. So from their point of view, there is very little they can do at this point in time. However, the good news which I have today is that we've recently been informed from an engineering firm, a tracking company with an engineering arm, that they have designed or developed a jacking mitigation device.
Okay.
And this is just happened. We are in fact having a meeting with them next week to discuss this with them, to see how effective this can be done, and if we can introduce that into the market to minimize these losses. That is the positive story that I can bring this morning.
Well, thank you for bringing us the good news. There's a lot of concerned citizens out there who you don't even want to get out of their cars when they stop at the ultra cities and the like on the long road. But thank you, Mr. Bates, for joining us today from the South African Insurance Association. Mr. Darby Bates telling us that there's some good news afoot. The jamming mitigation device hopefully will soon be launched in South Africa, and we don't have to worry too much about that. But let's have a look at social media. You're on at SABC Newsroom. Ungovernable fighter talks about Julius Malema. He says he's the best leader of our revolution, and we will stand by him. Yes, others say that he's a dictator and they will go back to the ANC. Arthur says, Malema in court to defend allegations of corruption. Wonder if he will walk out today and show a middle finger in the process. There you have a picture. These are pictures coming to you from Polokwane. That's outside the High Court there, where it's been closed off. Hundreds and hundreds of EFF supporters are set to be marching there. The police are anxiously awaiting their arrival at the court. Greg Nicholson says, getting to court for Malema is so complex. I actually wish I was back at the Oscar trial. Yes, it's happening in Polokwane today. Most anticipated. I think it's now, well, just before 10 o'clock, 20 minutes or so before 10 o'clock, and the trial proceedings are well underway. Let's take a look now at our Facebook page. The hearing, of course, into fraud, corruption and money laundering charges against EFF leader Julius Malema resumes in the Polokwane High Court today. Then Water and Sanitation Minister Nomvula Mokonyane says cable theft equals to serious economic sabotage, and also the ministerial inquiry into the Luandle evictions in the Strand outside of Cape Town is expected to finalise its report on Tuesday. You can find this and more on our Facebook page. There you have our Facebook page. That is the team that puts the show together, very much so. Loving our work here at Newsroom. We'll be back after a short break.
we really know the hype is about the new and how about the new cabinet will actually perform. But what role should then the media be playing at this critical stage?
I would hope that the media will give the newly appointed people a benefit of the doubt.
Has the media lost its respect in this regard? We want you to tell us.
The many factors that are hidden from the public in terms of this ought to be brought out by the media.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
SABC News, we've got Africa covered.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
And welcome back. You're with Newsroom on SABC News. Let's take a look at the top stories this morning. The corruption trial of EFF leader Julius Malema is expected to get underway in the Polokwane Magistrates Court shortly. Hundreds of EFF supporters gathered all night in Polokwane in support of their leader. Malema faces charges of fraud, money laundering and corruption as well as racketeering. The charges relate to a 52 million rand project management tender awarded to the On Point Engineering Company. Police have cordoned off the streets around the court since last night. A conference discussing water management concludes in Mpumalanga today. The three-day conference has resolved that sharing resources between Swaziland, Mozambique and South Africa will help mediate water shortages. All three countries face severe backlogs in water provision. Meanwhile, according to Water and Sanitation Minister Nomvula Mokonyane and Rand water supply has now been normalized in all areas in Gauteng. Several parts of the province were hit by severe water shortages due to power disruptions. And moving to China, tens of thousands of pro-democracy protesters have extended a blockade of Hong Kong streets, stockpiling supplies and erecting makeshift barricades. Pro-democracy protesters turned parts of Hong Kong into a massive street party last night, with the mood turning festive just a day after riot police fired tear gas and ugly clashes. The huge crowds defied government calls to go home after Sunday's scenes, bringing key districts of the Asian financial hub to a standstill. Remember, all these top stories and more are available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Kevin, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katrine. Innovation, a digital platform that focuses on amplifying innovation and good news from across the continent here in Africa. Along with the new innovations, the platform highlights selfless actions by individuals, companies and governments on the continent. Every month, they join the team here at Newsroom to give us the latest on innovative news, inspiring all the citizens of the continent. Today we are joined, as always, by the founder of New Innovation, Katu Machar. Good morning, Katu.
Hey, Evan. How are you doing?
I believe congratulations in order. I just got a note here. It says you've recently secured an international partnership with Social Innovation and the Global Ethics Forum based in Geneva, in Switzerland, the only African innovation magazine that will attend the conference in October. Tell us a little bit about that and the sort of outcomes you're looking at.
Yes, I think the great news is that people are the world over, starting to talk about social good. A lot of times we're talking about the economy. A lot of times we're talking about the bad, the things that are happening out there. But we're saying, let us start talking about the good things that social innovators are doing. As you know, our focus is innovation. So we want to say, how best can we begin to shift the focus towards making sure that those innovators that are out there can get the showcase and be able to say, this is what we are doing to try and change and turn around the situations in our own background. So the conference is happening in Geneva on the 20th, from the 22nd to the 24th of October, where we will be streaming live from Geneva, where we want to make sure that all the new innovations that are happening from the social perspective can be captured, and the rest of the world, mostly Africa, should be able to know about all that's going on. So yeah, New Innovation, you should say well done, Evan. We're the only magazine that is from Africa that's going to be broadcasting from there.
That don't mean that no one else on the continent is invited or can take part. How can other African innovators...
Everybody can go. They can go to the SciGEF website that is going to be broadcasted just now. And by the way, the attendance is free. So anybody who's got a social innovation that they want to expose and share to the world, they can be able to just go and register SIGEF2014.com. So anybody can be able to go there.
I love the social innovators of Africa. I love that. Tell me quickly, I hear there's a new repurposed bag on the market, and it involves school children. Yes. It's even got its own power supply and the lights. Tell us a little bit about it. Sounds cool.
You know, they say in our language, they say watinta bafaz, watinti bawad, which means that where there's children and there's women, there's always good things that are coming out. This young lady is Ritaka. They actually recycle these bags, plastic bags that you get from all these shopping shops, and they are making those bags. Now, that round thing that you see there, Eben, that is a solar panel. Now, that solar panel, when you turn it around, it is a light. So during the day, as the children are walking around with the bags at school, they are actually charging that light. At night, when they get home, they just take it out and they put it on. It is then becomes a light. So now we're cutting issues of lack of electricity. We're cutting issues of times where children cannot be able to. You know, but this program is being done with giving partners where people can be able to come on board and be able to buy as many bags as they want and give it to a school that is needy, kids that are walking long distances. So it can be done across Africa. Anybody that is interested in using this as a social investment initiative, they can be able to do that.
So it's really the kids themselves that will have to do the uptake on it. But finally, I want to ask you an update on the Falling Walls Lab. Just give us a little.
Yes, I think we came through last month and we talked about the Falling Walls Lab of Berlin, which was the breaking down of apartheid. But now we're saying we're no longer breaking apartheid, but we're breaking the walls that are limiting people from thinking beyond their innovations and thinking beyond what needs to be done in the country. So Vinu Naya, who's based at the Innovation Hub, has won the Falling Walls Johannesburg. So we'll be traveling with him to Berlin on the 8th and 9th of November, where he will be taking part in the Global Showcase. So that is a good story to be able to look at and say, how best can he fare at an international stage? He's a social engineer, something that I'll have to tell you about at a later stage. But go onto the Innovation Hub website or onto Innovation and read more about this social engineer, what he's doing, and the kind of stuff that he can be able to do. And let's root for him when he goes to Berlin. Maybe he can win something.
Well, it's 8th and 9th of November. It should be a little bit cold there. I hope it's not too bad for you. You're going to have to pack in a nice warm coat there. And sure as ever.
I'm a winter baby, so I love it.
That's great, man. Thank you very much. That's New Innovations founder Katuma Shah telling us a little bit about, well, innovation, social engineering, and the like. If you want to see more, read more, go to New Innovations website. It's well worth a read. One of the very, very best here in South Africa. Let's now take a look at what you're talking about finally on social media before I hand you back to Katrine. You're talking cable theft, is that right? And rhino poaching should be treated equally, says Tendai Joe. Well, easy enough being done. Forest Health Police says Newmarket cable locating device stolen. Cable theft costs millions each year, disrupts rail, utilities and phones. Suspicious activity? Call the number. And I speak my mind. While Rand Water, Joburg Water took their time to admit the problems regarding water crisis, I urge everyone to take time to pay. To pay what? I can't see that. Okay, there we have it. Take time to pay for services. Of course, we have to pay for services. We are a world-class African country. That's why we like to position ourselves. Tony Cheaton talks about gross incompetence, bad management, poor problems. What? Bad management, poor maintenance, and no backup plan equals water shortages. What are you doing, Tony? It's easy to sit on your soapbox and criticize. But what are you doing, Tony? What are you doing? How are you making the world a little bit better? We heard about social entrepreneurs, engineers, the like. Get involved in your community. There we go. Now, finally, malaria claims more than 1 million lives in Africa each year. According to research, that's one child every 60 seconds. An estimated 20% of the world's population, mostly those living in the world's poorest countries, are at risk of contracting malaria. Now, one organisation is on a mission to say goodbye to the disease once and for all. Katrine Milan has more.
Well, thank you, Eben. Yes, and this Friday, the who's who of South African fashion, socialites and politicians will come together in support and celebration of Goodbye Malaria initiative. Fashion for a Brighter Future aims to raise funds and create awareness on solving Africa's malaria crisis. Here to tell us more about the evening, we're joined by Alana Finley from Goodbye Malaria, Jacques Kotze from Eragos, an establishment that assists social development organizations through fashion, and then one of the fashion designers that will be showcasing her designs that night, Anisa Mpungwe from Loincloth and Ashes. Guys, welcome to Newsroom.
Thank you. Good morning.
Jacques, I would like to start with you. Just Friday's event, can you tell us a bit more about the thinking and the message and the background behind it?
Well, definitely. Well, Eragos was formed bringing business and fashion together, and charity became a key venture for our work ethic. And now each of the Fashion for a Brighter Future events will highlight the importance of a social organization, and a portion of the proceeds of these events will directly contribute going back into South Africa to make it a better living place for all South Africans. Now, we've borrowed a concept of the African creativity to solve Africa's problems. Now, this is a concept we borrowed from Goodbye Malaria, where they then enable Africans to advocate and raise funds for social ills, in this case specifically malaria, while also creating employment in the country.
We're talking about malaria. Alana, you're from Goodbye Malaria. Can you tell us a bit more about the work you guys do? And then just the numbers. We're seeing a child every 60 seconds. Is that true?
Yes, it's actually quite stunning. It's about 1,300 children a day. And, you know, the most interesting thing is that malaria is actually, we can eradicate it. It can be eliminated, and it has been in other parts of the world. But why not Africa? So a group of African entrepreneurs got together, and they created an innovative financing model that actually puts the power of eliminating malaria in the hands of the consumer. So we've created an incredible range of products, one being some beautiful shwe shwe pajama pants. They're made from 3 cats shwe shwe by Dagama Textiles. We've done a beautiful causal bracelet with Relate.
I see Anissa is wearing one of the bracelets.
Yep, and we've done a beautiful teddy bear that we call the Mashozi bear. It's actually named after one of our malaria ambassadors' wives, Kingsley Holgate. And we've actually gifted you with a pair, making you one of our malaria warriors.
Much. Tell me a bit about the materials, the custom shwe shwe material.
It's a custom shwe shwe by Dagama Textiles, which is one of the oldest shwe shwe manufacturers in Africa. And it's got a beautiful stamp on the inside of authenticity, and it's got our logo on it. And every pair of pants that we sell empowers us to go into Mozambique and spray a home, essentially saving 3 lives.
And these products will all be available on Friday night at Friday Night's event.
So what's nice about Eragos, they've actually allowed us to gift every person that's attending the show. So each person has been empowered to save a life. And the product is also available on our website, goodbyemalaria.com.
Now, it will be a fashion show on Friday night at the Pretoria Country Club, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Anissa, you're one of the designers showcasing at this event.
Correct.
Can you tell us a bit more, your decision to get involved with this project, a project like this?
Well, the issue of malaria is very close to my heart. I'm from Tanzania, and it's one of the worst affected places in Africa, and I've lost friends through malaria. So just to know that, just to do a show, to get people together, to even inform them of what it is, what malaria does, or how you can prevent it, I wouldn't, I can't pass the chance.
We're talking about using creativity to solve Africa's problems. Is that the main message behind this, and why aren't we doing this even more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. It should be the main message. I mean, Africa's always had this image of being a begging bowl, and there is donor fatigue around things that help Africa. And we've got amazing talents like Anissa who traveled the globe. So, from a Goodbye Malaria perspective, it's important for us to put the power in the hands of the creatives that live on the continent, whereas issues like malaria are closest to them. And, I mean, we do a lot of job creation as well through our product range, which is what it's about, essentially, Africa doing it for itself.
Anissa, have you ever been involved with anything similar?
Yes, back home in Tanzania, definitely, where we supply the nets to different households. Just anything to help prevent malaria.
Now, Jock, just to wrap, can you just give us the details of Friday night's event and how can people become involved, even if they just want to donate and not even attend the event?
Yes, definitely. People can go to our website, www.aragos.co.za, or send us a mail to info@aragos.co.za. It's going to be Friday night at the Pretoria Country Club. They can still reserve tickets. It will start at 6 p.m. So please, if there is anybody, get in contact with us. Otherwise, use hashtag Aragos, hashtag F4BF, hashtag Goodbye Malaria. I mean, there's so many hashtags save a life. There's so many things you could do to create awareness around this issue at the moment.
Well, guys, thank you so much. We'll be sure to upload those information, all those details to our Facebook page as well. And there you can go have all the details for Friday night's events, bringing fashion and artists and creativity together to raise awareness and raise funds for a drastic cause like malaria. Now, it looks like I'm ending the show on my own this morning, Evan. Newsroom is broadcast live from our studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. The show repeats at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following day. We're also streaming live on YouTube at the time, with the show available on demand on our YouTube channel. This is SABC Newsroom. You've been watching Newsroom, where we love it in the morning.
Música